Hi everybody, Eve Everett here, and today we're going to go over what's sold on eBay. This is my fabric porn edition. Oh, but before we move on, please keep in mind that as with anything in terms of what sells on eBay, your mileage may vary. These are all fabrics that I sold within the last year to year and a half or so. Okay everybody, and first up is this antique French rose pink floral silk damask fabric. This was a museum deaccession, dates to the very end of the 1800s or beginning of the 1900s, and it only measured about 41 inches long by about 48 inches across. I did auction this particular piece, which I rarely do. It was actually had two lines of fading across from being folded for many years, but it did sell for $53.98 plus shipping, so not bad for a particularly small piece of fabric. And again, I auctioned this one as well. This is an antique griffin floral pink silk damask fabric. This is the smaller piece. It was about 26 inches by 23 inches, also museum deaccession. Had a small smudge on the front of it, and even though it was a pretty small piece of fabric, with shipping, I sent it out the door for about $34. This is an absolutely stunning piece of floral striped pink silk damask fabric. Also dates to the end of the 1800s. This particular one was 51 inches by about 31 inches across. So again, a pretty small piece of fabric, and I was, even with some tears in the fabric, I sold this for $35. And again, here's another damaged piece of antique red floral damask fabric. This particular item was pretty small, and again, I would say this is roughly a 36 inch by 24 inch piece of fabric. And even with the damage that you can see there, I sent it again at the door for another $35. So don't avoid old pieces of fabric because they're damaged, because there's a lot of interest in picking up authentic designs and authentic prints that can be translated and used for inspiration by designers. This is an antique French blue floral embroidered silk fabric. It measured 25 inches by 22 inches, and I sold this for $32.98. This is an antique Italian floral silver silk damask fabric. It measured about 34 inches by 25 inches. This was again part of a specialty auction of museum deaccession textiles that I attended. I got some really great pieces with some slight damage to them, and I was able to put them up on eBay and sell them within a reasonably short amount of period of time, which to me is within 3 to 6 months. Some of them sold much quicker, of course, but again, I think short term, for what I like to sell, is a little longer than what most people think. But again, that's what diversifying what you sell is all about, because in the long run it won't matter. Oh my goodness, sorry about that, guys. Actually, I sold that piece for with shipping $40, and that went to California, and that was a very nice sale because I actually ended up selling several more fabrics to that person. They didn't quibble over price. They actually didn't even ask for combined shipping, which I would have done. They just simply paid, and I never heard from them again. And well, I got positive feedback, but I didn't get any email or anything like that from them. And actually, I hate to say it, but those are kind of the best sales ever because they're low maintenance. You get the money, they get the item, everybody's happy. This is an antique red floral striped fabric. This is cotton, and very, very pretty French country piece. And this is one of those pieces that sold within a week of me putting that up, and it went for $37. There is damage to this fabric. It was actually a smaller piece, but I did ship this out for $37 to a designer down in South Carolina. Generally, designers are looking to designs like that for inspiration for hand towels, bath towels, tablecloths, you name it, basically anything you find in Bed Bath & Beyond. Oh, And by the way, people are starting to get spring fever. So if you do see any vintage textiles, vintage tablecloths, things of that nature, you know, anything like your granny or your mother used to use back in the mid-century through the 80s, where everybody had to sit down and be polite and not use their fingers, that's a good time to get that stuff out, steam it, and get it up, because people really start looking to buy vintage textiles and will pay good prices between now and Easter. And we'll definitely start picking up. So they take a little bit of prep time. You might as well get started. Moving right along, here we have, well, every one of these except for the last one is from the 40s into the early 50s, mostly feed sack. And what people would do with feed sack fabric is, after getting it, they would convert it into textiles, clothing, you name it. I've even seen them used as covers on bridge cards for bridge, and I've even seen them turned into duvet covers. They have some really beautiful prints, and they're always very popular. So if you can find them, you can sell these. I sold a duvet of feed sack fabric for $125, and you can sell shirts, you can sell the fabric anywhere, if you can wait a little bit, between $25 on up. And I actually, if you go to Brimfield, you'll see a ton of this, and it's always very fun to see a whole lot of fabric feed sack designs stacked together in springtime. This was actually a little bit of a fail for me, because I don't know, it was just one of those things where it was like I lost my mind or something temporarily. This is 9 yards of barkcloth, and although it's somewhat of a kitchen-like pattern on the fabric, I had a substantial amount of it, and I sold the entire thing with shipping for $80, which now looking back on it kind of disappoints me. But I had it around for like a year, and like I said, the design was, I don't know, not so hot. But anyway, the person liked it, and I shipped it, and it's theirs. Before we wrap it up, this is an antique silk, all handmade quilt, and I started quite a train wreck with this quilt on a forum for quilters that collect antique quilts. And let me tell you something, I got this from a Doris Duke deaccessioning auction several years ago, and I held on to it for a long time. Finally put it up, but I didn't know a lot about it, so I asked, and I swear there must have been, it was like one of the longest threads on the board, and it ended up with people like trashing each other and citing each book that they had, you know, well, this book says that, and this book says it's this pattern, and it was just nuts. And I felt kind of bad because, you know, I really didn't intend for that to happen, obviously, but nonetheless, it did. As you can see, somebody spent an awful lot of time on this, but you can also see some of the shattering on the fabric. And when we talk about shattering, we're literally talking about fabric that has just completely broken down, and you can kind of see in the little triangles, especially more towards the center of it, what shattering is. And again, more shattering. This actually helped me date this quilt. This is the back of the quilt, and what's strange about it is the letters kind of melted away there, but it still held the integrity of whatever was written on it so that you could tell what it was. But in spite of all my work on this and the train wreck and this and everything else, I actually auctioned this starting at $99 plus shipping, and it sold for the first bid, which was $99. And I know things shouldn't be considered precious to the point where you're a hoarder and you hold on to everything forever, but I was a little let down by that. But $99 ultimately for a shattered quilt is, in my opinion, pretty darn good. This is my best for last, I guess, in my opinion, because it's something that is nondescript, and many people would literally walk by and not really realize what they were looking at, unless, of course, they specialize in antique woven fabrics. This particular throw, sorry, it's a wool coverlet. is actually, this one actually dates back to the 1830s. It was almost black, but it's actually a very dark blue, and it was all woven. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful piece, and I actually paid a lot for this, a lot more than I had intended, and it was $125. That's what I paid for it, and I posted it on eBay for I think $750 because of its age and because it's so intact. It has a repeated, very scarce cathedral repeat border, as you can see there, and it's just a beautiful piece. Now, I couldn't find the provenance on who made it, but I did have the dating of the fabric correct. And ultimately, I waited for a little while, didn't wait too long, posted that in April, sold that by, oh, look at that. I sold that by the first week of May for $349. So not as big as a flip as I would like to have in terms of the margin of what I paid for it. But, you know, $349 for 125 minus fees and all that, I'm pretty happy with that. But anyway, have a great week, guys. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you did, please subscribe. Please validate my existence. Seriously, subscribe. Hit like if you like the video. If you have any questions, hit me up. It's eve@eveeverett.com, and it may take me a little while, but I will get back to you. All right, guys, happy hunting and have a great week.